All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, you knew that when Rick Pitino put his name on the dotted line to be the head basketball coach at St. John's, that things would change in Queens. It's been a rough go for the Red Storm since 2003, as they've only made the NCAA tournament three times. While you got to go back to 2000 to find the last time that the Johnnies even won a tournament game. But Patino brought his winning pedigree to St. John's, as previously he took four different schools to the NCAA tournament. And in year one, has Patino done enough to get St. John's to the NCAA tournament? The Red Storm are 20 and 13, and they finish fifth in the regular season in a very tough Big East conference. Now, winning a game in the Big East tournament was big for this St. John's program. They beat Seton Hall in the quarterfinals, and they were able to reach the semis of the Big East tournament for the first time since 2000. St. John's finished the regular season 11-9 in Big East Conference play for their first winning record within the league since 2021. Clearly, the turning point for this year's St. John's team was when Rick Pitino publicly criticized his team after they had dropped 8 of 10. The Red Storm would respond by winning their next six games before losing to Connecticut last night in the Big East tournament semis. So, with all of that said and done, has St. John's done enough to get to the NCAA tournament? You look at a team, they're 20 and 13. Okay. The teams that are above them in the Big East Conference, they only beat one of those teams during the regular season. That was the win over Creighton a couple of weeks ago at the Garden. But you got swept by Connecticut twice during the regular season. And then, of course, you lost to Connecticut again last night in the Big East tournament. You lost twice to Seton Hall during the regular season, but you came back and you were able to beat them in the quarters of the Big East tournament, losing to Marquette a couple of times as well. St. John's, for the most part, they beat the teams that they were supposed to beat, but it's those teams above them, the upper echelon teams, if you will, that are going to leave the question as far as will the Johnnies be hear their name called tomorrow evening to be a part of the field of 68. We got to wait and see, because you look at it, the Big East, they got three locks for the NCAA tournament. You know Connecticut's going to be there. You know Marquette's going to be there. You know that Creighton's going to be there. But there were four bubble teams somewhat coming into conference tournament week here. So St. John's is a part of that mix, along with Seton Hall, Providence, and Villanova. Now, of course, Villanova didn't do themselves any favors, losing their final two of the regular season, once to Seton Hall and then to Creighton. They had to struggle to get past DePaul in the first round of the Big East tournament before they lost to Marquette in the quarters. So, with a record of 18 and 15, I don't think that Villanova is going to be making the NCAA tournament. Providence, who finished 10 and 10 in the conference, like Villanova, they're 21 and 13 overall. You look at the Friars, they beat Creighton, okay, in the quarterfinals of the Big East tournament, gave Marquette a run for their money. But of course, just giving a team a run for their money and winning are two separate things. So it's going to be interesting to see there. Now, here's the conundrum, because if the committee decides to take four teams from the Big East and they say, you know what, we're going to take St. John's over Seton Hall, the folks, at Seton Hall are going to sit back and say, now, wait a minute. We beat St. John's two out of three times during the year. They were 20 and 13. We're 20 and 12. We also beat Connecticut. And that's something that St. John's can't say. I think St. John's is definitely in the mix. Okay. I do think that the Big East should get five teams. And I think the Seton Hall should get rewarded for finishing fourth in the Big East. I mean, the Pirates won 13 conference games. Okay, to give you an idea of that, both Marquette and Creighton went 14-6, and of course, Connecticut dominated as they were 18-2. So I think the Seton Hall gets in, and honestly, I think the St. John's should get it. Okay, they're right there on that fringe, and I think that final spot, if you will, of five teams do get in from the Big East. I think it comes down to St. John's and Providence, and right now people might want to lean to St. John's over Providence, but nonetheless, the Johnnies did split with the Friars during the regular season, but nonetheless, it's still been a tremendous story whether or not that St. John's is able to get to the NCAA tournament this year. Rick Pitino has sparked a lot of interest in this St. John's program that hasn't been there for quite some time. You think about it, the Red Storm tried it when they went to Chris Mullen, arguably the greatest player in the history of this program. And, he did get them to the NCAA tournament in his last year, but it wasn't that spark. Steve Lavin got them to the NCAA tournament twice, but it wasn't that spark. Mike Anderson, of course, the Norm Roberts tenure at St. John's was a disaster. The beginning of the Mike Jarvis era, you know, got off to a roaring start. The second half of it, not so much. Fran Fraschilla, prior to Mike Jarvis, got things turned around after the program began to go south after Brian Mahoney replaced the great Lou Carnesecca. But nonetheless, it's been a while since there's been a buzz around the St. John's program, and that's big for them, and it's also big for the Big East because you think about the Big East. New York is still the brain trust, if you will, for this league. I know that it's a lot different from its origin. Things have changed, yes, but New York is still the nucleus. And then, I think, and I've talked about this before, the Big East is at its best. Okay, and this is still a darn good basketball league. But I think the Big East is at its best when St. John's and Georgetown are in that mix. Okay, and you still got a very good league, a very competitive league. And I think, St. John's getting back into that mix, getting back into that conversation, and the fact that they finished in the top half of this competitive league is a building point for Patino and company. Now, if they find a way to get to the tournament and win a game or two, I think that would only be the icing on the cake. But nonetheless, it's been a good turnaround for the Johnnies. Have they done enough to get to the NCAA tournament? We'll find out in about 24 hours or so. But nonetheless, let's see if the Johnnies have what it takes to be one of the field of 68. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.